Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, long time.
I know, good to see you. Where are you sitting? I don't want to take your
Oh,
spot.
does it?
No, there's no
Actually, over
spotting.
there, you're gonna be blinded by the light, wrapped up
What?
like.
That's the wrong religion. We are the light.
I know, well, I get blinded right here.
Are you blinded? We can.
Not too bad.
Good evening. It's 7 o'clock here in the northeast of the United States. This is the Tibet Center, Kunshab Tarduling, a Buddhist meditation and study center located in New York City and northern New Jersey. And this is our twice weekly presentation of the Buddha Dharma, specifically Lamrim Chenmo, Stages on the Path to Enlightenment. This is a recording. No, I'm actually saying. Uh, any problems with the picture, sound, etc., text me right away or Mr. Smith. Uh, Anyone for whom you want us to pray for, please put their names in the chat box as soon as possible. Again, I remind you that I don't see the whole chat box because the picture takes up the big screen. So sometimes I may not mention the name. Um, all the prayers we say are on the website, FAQ section, scroll down to prayers. So it's a little chaotic here today due to the cats acting up again, as you know. Anyway, we'll start as we usually do. Prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living here together with their near ones who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. Very good, Buddy. At least you're quiet. The Heart Sutra. Buddy is the cat, in case you think I'm talking to myself. Not yet. I'm getting there, though. Thus have I heard once the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi which examines the dharmas called profound illumination, and at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered, Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form, form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing, they are not impure or pure, they neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear, they transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisoha. O Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva, mahasattva, should learn profound, transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the bodhisattva, mahasattva, Avalokiteshvara, saying, good, good, O son of noble family, profound, transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara That whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, Asuras and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. So refuge and bodhisattva vow, which as you know, we say 3 times. Bula Bula Radna, good evening. Bula Bula Tara Mantra, how are you all? With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge through the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. May all the pains of living creatures ripen solely upon myself, and through the might of the Bodhisattva Sangha, may all beings experience happiness. May the teachings which are the soul medicine for suffering, and the origin of every joy be materially supported and honored and abide for a very long time. I prostrate to Manjagosha, through whose kindness wholesome minds ensue, and I prostrate to my spiritual masters, through whose kindness I develop. And as we always do, as a cause for the swift return of Rato Chögyam Rinpoche, whose holiness has composed a prayer called a prayer for a swift return. On the website, of course. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lozang Tubuang Dorje Chang, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of the Victor Losang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed, great awakening. Yet you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the bodhisattvas? That's a rhetorical question. Though impossible for you till cyclic existence's end to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings and wish-fulfilling jewel, return as the glory of Losang Tempe. Magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, Srimata Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. Can't wait. Anyway. We're studying the doctrine of emptiness, the key doctrine, the doctrine. It's not a doctrine. It's the way things are. It's not something Buddha invented. It's something he discovered. Oh, this is reality. So we shouldn't think that this guy pushes this thing, that thing. No, it's the way things are. We are in that state ourselves, but we don't know it. So we falsely see things as inherent existing, meaning things static. This is this, that's that. They don't move. They don't do this. They don't do. That's impossible. But that's the way our mind likes to think. And that causes tension, which we don't like. Oh, the cat's quiet. The lion sleeps tonight, huh? Or at least, what did he do last time? He called in sick. That's all right. So, what we do in the LAM is and Geshe Sopa's commentary is just the philosophical viewpoints. What is it like when you actually come across this? How do you feel when you realize it, etc.? So I'm using His Holiness's book, done with the Venerable Tipton Children. This is volume 8 of this Library of Wisdom and Compassion. It's the latest one, friends. There'll be 2 more. The last one I think will be on Tantra, maybe the 9th and 10th, I don't know. But they're in the works. I hope they live long and finish it, please. Because we all need it. I'm going to start with from page 265. We did some of this before here and there, but the initial realization of emptiness that pleases the Buddha. Why is the Buddha pleased? Because their only job, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, to make other beings happy. How do you make them happy? Make them eternally happy. Let them realize their true nature, Buddha nature. We're all Buddhas covered up. We have to reveal. It's not something you have to go out and get. We have the Buddha nature. So tell that to Mr. Trump. Tell that to Xi Jinping and Putin and everybody. They do have it. This is a temporary thing there. So he quotes Tsong-kha-pa's poem about the principal aspects of the path. And this particular verse says, one who sees the infallible cause and effect of all phenomena in cyclic existence and beyond. That's it. Everything is under the dominion of cause and effect. And dismantles every notion of an objectified basis, something there that you're not part of. You don't co-create moment by moment. Has entered the path that pleases the Buddha. I can't wait. Anyway, here's his commentary on page 265, if you're fortunate enough to have the book. I think it's even a Kindle, so maybe you want that. I don't know. This verse explains how to gain the initial realization of emptiness. Here, dependent arising is used as the reason to prove that all phenomena lack inherent existence. So first we logically scope it out to prove to ourselves, because this is something, no, don't tell me this. But when you finally come to certainty after you read a bit, say, it has to be that way. I don't realize that. But then you have certainty and you have the strength to sit in meditation without being confused and this is getting nowhere. Well, no. Emptiness is realized in terms of dependent arising. This marks the entering the path that pleases the Buddha. That's a reasoning. There's several reasonings. One of them is dependent arising. A shallow understanding of dependent arising isn't sufficient to bring about this realization of emptiness. However, knowing that a sprout arises from a seed cannot induce a conceptual consciousness ascertaining emptiness. If it did, all farmers would know emptiness. They would have realized. Everybody knows I plant the seeds, I'm going to get celery or whatever, The infallible cause and effect of all phenomena in cyclic existence and beyond refers to all phenomena, both products, these are impermanent phenomena, and non-products, permanent phenomena. So if something is a product, it's been caused. And it also is a cause of something else. It's in the flow. Non-products, emptiness is a non-product. It's realized by means, but it's a non-product. Space is so beyond refers to nirvana. Okay, we got the state beyond sorrow and misery of samsara. So what we're in is samsara, or sometimes they say we're in a state of dukkha, a Sanskrit word, and the best definition I heard was the state that's impossible to realize complete satisfaction. Yes, there's here and there, there's this, and I won this award, I'm puffed, but complete satisfaction, as long as we're in samsara, not available. And of course that's what we want. We want it all. Anyway, nirvana is a permanent phenomenon, so cause and effect do not literally apply to it. However, true cessations, the ending of samsara, occur dependent on true paths, and the ultimate true cessation is nirvana. So you see there's a cause, effect, there's motion. We're always in motion. Someone said, get your numback, as a matter of fact, our consciousness itself is not a thing. It's a process. So it's something to think about. Although true cessations are not produced by causes as such, metaphorically it says that they are effects of true paths. So we're getting a little sticky. Let's go to the real stick. He quotes then Nagarjuna's 60 Standards on Reasoning, top of page 266. Those who do not see ultimate reality grasp at samsara and nirvana. Oh, they're separate. There's this state and that. You got to go beyond even that. But those who see ultimate reality possess no pretensions of the world and its transcendence. The world is valid. Its transcendence is equally valid. They're complementary and they're not contradictory. It's hard to get your mind around that. It really is. I have a book, so I cheat. But the infallible cause and effect of all phenomena in cyclic existence refers to the 12 links of dependent origination. We won't go into those now because it's drawn out, etc. But how do we get into this state? Ignorance causes karma or formative actions. Every action we do, mental, physical, puts a seed on our mental continuum, not in our body because that goes away. That as we die, but seeds in that mental continuum, and when they meet proper conditions, they sprout. You did something nice, you helped someone do this or that, or cared for a sick person. Eventually, that will blossom into something very good. You did something bad and you didn't purge it with regret, you're going to have to pay the consequences. That's it. In other words, our destiny's in our own hands. That's it. Don't blame your parents. There's no future in it. Anyway, so the path that pleased the Buddha, he says, I'm skipping, begins with an inferential realization of emptiness. In other words, you use concepts, you use words, you use ideas, which we do all the time. According to the view of Prasangika Madhyamaka, they're still technical, but that's the higher school. All the schools of the Buddha, the philosophical schools that the Buddha taught are legit. They're taught to keep people progressing up steps of a ladder. Certain people can't handle the ultimate thing. Oh, you're kidding, they'll reject it out of hand. But no, this is one way. Oh, yeah. Okay, now it's this, now it's that. You condition the mind by studying these lower schools, if that's the way you go. It's up to you. And then finally, the higher schools, tenets are much more easier to grasp. You understand. And you must be careful because all the schools use the same words, but they mean different things by it. It had to be that way, you know. Back in school again, aren't we? Yeah. So, to actualize the path, hearing and studying, reading, listening, watching YouTubes. And that's very, very important. That's what we do here. And then you reflect on it. And do I understand it or not? Rinpoche said, when you read a book, what you should do is read a paragraph, close it, and see if you can repeat the author's words. See what you got. And then open it again and back. Then you got it. That's one way of grasping at things. You could even do this with your accounting textbook. That's the way the mind trains. In nice sized pieces, small bites. I always like to say small bites. But I'm a hog with real food anyway. So, to actualize that we hear in studying the teachings as well as thinking about discussing their meaning. Yes. From this, our wrong views soften and doubt inclined towards the correct meaning, in this case, thinking that perhaps phenomena are empty, arises. That's the way we are. We hold on to our ideas. We know, you don't know, I know. Slowly they soften with reasonings. And, maybe then you have an inclination towards, maybe things are empty. Especially when you see the contradictions. So our understanding then progresses from doubt to correct assumption. And there are many degrees of correct assumption, stretching from the assumption that phenomena are empty, because it seems right, to a firm belief that will soon become an inference, a total understanding. Not a direct realization, because we're still using concepts. We're still using words and thoughts. The direct inference is like you hear music or something, that's it. There's no thought about it. The deep understanding of causal dependence is cultivated over time, and once cultivated, repeated meditation is essential to realize that if something arises dependently, it must be empty of existing independently by its own power. So that's a big point. We see things, our visual consciousnesses are automatically corrupt because they have appearances of inherent existence or separate entities appearing to them all the time, the auditory consciousness, the taste, everything. It's hard to get an idea of that, but that's why they go through these arguments. Take your time. And it's not cramming for the final. In Buddhism, the final is the final. Then your next life, but it's never final. So think that way. So you're not wasting time. So be impatient. Slow down. They also cannot realize the counter-provision. Whatever is inherently existent cannot exist dependently. So do things depend on things? Just look around. Just like the walls, the books, everything in your kitchen that produced, constantly in motion. The scientists will tell us it looks solid, but the atoms are there moving around, keeping it in solid. We don't have that perception to see that. A yogi would have the perception to see, like this table, the computer. Yeah, it's solid, but it's being held together by atoms. They would do that with their visual consciousness. They're that good. So they don't need scientific instruments. So I'm being a little slick about that, but you have to think that way. And most importantly, our consciousnesses designate things, and that's the most subtle dependency. And then you could see when people point out certain exercises, for instance, this guy's a big pain in the butt. He's horrible. He's a jerk. Somebody else says, no, that's my husband. He's a nice guy. It's your opinion, but you created it as a solid thing that that's the way that person is. That's the way the afflicted mind works, our normal mind. You don't like something, everything they do is horrible. There's no such thing. I know. I do it too. But that's things like that. That's an after effect or side effect of the thinking about inherent existence. All that trouble, all our afflictions, hatred, jealousy, afflicted desire, so all based on an ignorant way of viewing the world. So, with this initial realization of emptiness, in other words, just scoping it out on a blueprint type thing with words, meditators are not yet able to establish phenomena as conventionally existent in the face of realizing their emptiness. Emptiness and the dependent arising are not mutually supportive at this time. You can't understand it. Nevertheless, this inferential realization brings about a strong change in the meditator's mind. It does not negate too much and fall to the extreme of nihilism by contradicting the cause and effect nature of mundane and supermundane phenomena that undeniably bring harm and help. We went through this last time. We go through it all, so it's very important. And he's going to mention a page or two later. When people go into an emptiness realization, only a clear vacuity appears. The object that they were looking at. And when you do emptiness meditation, you're not looking for emptiness. You're looking for inherent existence. The non-finding of it is emptiness. So at that point, beyond the conceptual realization is laying in your mind all this time, getting stronger and stronger and waiting to break out into the more gross mind. When it does, you seem to be disappearing. You seem that the object isn't there all of a sudden. A clear vacuity. So they assume wrongly, oh, things really don't exist. That's the real reality. So actually everybody's seeing things, that's for the world, but these things really don't exist. That's a false view. Things do exist. What you were doing with that exercise is you were looking for inherent existence. You don't have to do that in walking around in everyday life. That mindset that's looking for inherent existence is only the authority for the final nature of something. It's not the authority to validate everyday world. The everyday world is valid. We're in it. But the underlying mode of being of things is not apparent to our senses, to our current minds. But that's there. There's a panic sometimes. Well, he'll describe that. So in case that happens to you, you're not disappearing. You're there. What you saw is the lack of inherent existence, especially the lack of inherent existence of your I, your ego-based I, which you think is so solid, etc., even though things contradict. You think you're the same person you were when you were 10 years old. Yes and no. But the I is solid. It's there, but not the way we think it is. So don't panic. That's all. That's the word. Have a cigar. Do something. I don't know. It brings about a strong... Okay. So it doesn't do too much. So the path pleasing to Buddha, I'm dropping down because we'll be here all night, is generated by using dependent arising as the reason to establish emptiness. Mere dependent designation is very subtle and understanding it occurs after realizing emptiness. To see how it plays out. To gain the initial realization of emptiness, meditating on the reasonings of causal dependence or dependence on parts is sufficient. That's another way things depend. This thing depends on its parts. Or it depends on people putting it together, your car, your toaster, whatever you want. So it's dependent in that way. The mind too. The mind is dependent on the objects it notices, the thoughts it holds, the continuum on and on. Remember, it's a process. It's not a thing. So then they conclude there's no objectified basis. Everything is in a motion. This inferential realization dismantles every notion of an objectified basis, in that now meditators are sure inherent existence cannot possibly exist, as it can't, when we think about it. We'll do this later on. We travel through the LAM Rim's third volume. Nevertheless, upon arising from meditative, I'm skipping, equipoise and emptiness, the people and the objects in the environment begin to appear like illusions. Yes. You saw that. Oh, that inherent existence isn't there. That's the space-like emptiness, they call it. Then you come out of that equipoise. The sense consciousnesses are working again. Everything's. But things that you see don't seem as solid as before. A beginner will happen for like a half hour, hour. A deeper meditator will happen for quite a lot. They'll seem like almost like they're transparent or film-like you're watching a movie. That's called illusion-like emptiness. Previously, you thought they were a certain way, and now you're saying, wait a minute, they're not, don't have that pull and that strength. I always tell the same story. There was a deep meditator, really good, would go into the meditative equipoise, and then he would come out of it, and he was riding a horse with this Lama Kamto Rinpoche that used to teach here. He's gone now, but he'll be back. He'll be back. Guy's riding a horse, and they said, you better duck. That tree limb is real. It's not something that's going to be transparent or something. That says a lot. You okay, Lavinia? Oh, good. All right. Drinking again? Where's Darren? Is he in there? He's supposed to give her some. So, nevertheless, upon arising, things look like illusion. As their understanding of emptiness deepens, their experience of illusion-like appearances is extended, as we just said. Illusion-like appearance will be explained in more depth in the following chapter. Yes. Without understanding that the existence and identity of all phenomena is posited purely in terms of dependence, we are compelled to assert that they exist from their own side. They don't. It seems like it's there from its own side. No. So, and he talks about the other souls. Okay. How, when appearance and emptiness are grasped as different, this is as distinct, rather. Appearance and emptiness as distinct. Because I see the appearance, and what we see, by the way, is not conventional existence. We see inherent existence, inherent existence mixed with the object itself. So, this verse makes the important point now. As long as we grasp the nature of appearance and emptiness as distinct, we have not and will not realize the Buddha's intent. Here it is. As long as the two understandings of appearance, infallible, dependent arising, and of emptiness, the absence of all assertions, remain separate, when you have not realized, then you have not realized the intent of the sage himself, the Buddha. The two understandings referred to in this verse are: one, the understanding ascertaining that dependently arisen agents, objects, and actions that appear to conventional reliable cognizers are infallible, and two, the understanding ascertaining that emptiness itself is free from any assertions, such as the assertions that it is inherently existent or not existent. We'll cover that. Don't worry about it. When these two understandings are seen as separate, when they seem to be unrelated and mutually exclusive, and the one undermines the other, an obstacle to realizing the Buddha's intent is present. It's not just seeing that anything is there and that's what it really is, but the solid reality is not. No. They work together. If the understanding of emptiness causes the understanding of dependent arising to fade, or if the understanding of dependent arising interferes with the understanding of emptiness, the complete correct view still evades these meditators. I can't wait, because that's a nice step, At least you saw it. This disconnect indicates that meditators have not yet understood the convergence of dependent arising and emptiness. To remedy this, they must continue to reflect and meditate on emptiness and dependent arising to bring these two understandings together in a mutually supportive and harmonious way, so that the meaning of one becomes the meaning of the other. Why do we have to go over this? Yeah, I got the understanding. Yeah, I understand that. What was so instinctively habitual from billions of years of lives that we had, that we have to keep burning it into our mind somewhat, with a calm, abiding mind, with a mind that's very stable, and with good motivation. What kind of motivation? I want to be a Buddha to take the suffering out of the world. Everyone. I want everyone to come up to what they're supposed to be, Buddhas. Big deal. I mean, that's a big job. We're never going to be done in this life. Well, maybe some of you are real good, but anyway. So here's a nice little vignette. Once a monk was searching for what the word I referred to. Try and think of your own I. I'm sick of this place. Oh, I can't wait to eat that. Hold it. Oh, the I. That's fine. That's not wrong. That's the moderate, or whatever they call it. The small I, but the big capital I that's on its own, the captain of the ship. I'm in charge of my body and my thoughts. I'll change my mind. I'll do this. Is that there that way or not? So you got to examine that. So, once a monk was searching for the word I, what it referred to. Suddenly, he grabbed his monastic vest, a dongkag, I don't know what that is, here's a vest, in fear because he felt like he was disappearing into total nothingness. That's what we're talking about. Such fear may arise at this point in the process of gaining the correct view when practitioners are actually refuting the inherent existence of the I and are about to gain a correct conceptual realization of emptiness. Conceptual, still conceptual, but it's a big deal. It's a bomb. This fear arises due to thinking that because the I cannot be found under ultimate analysis, it's totally non-existent. I'm being annihilated. Help. No. Some people have these experiences because of mental illness or because of extreme tension and anxiety. They don't realize. The fear is based on confusing emptiness with non-existence. Emptiness is not non-existence. We're here. Such confusion is present when practitioners do not yet know that emptiness and dependent arising come to the same point. They cannot yet correctly establish the nominal or conventional existence of the I and other phenomena within knowing that they are empty. It's here, it's merely here, it's fine, and it functions, but it's not so. If it was the way we thought it was intuitively, it wouldn't function, wouldn't do anything. Inherent existence means setting itself up and just sitting there, not affected by permanence, impermanence, nothing. No. But instinctively, we separate things, and this is that. That's what we do. So we got to get out of that habit. It's a bad habit. Your mother should have told you. This story emphasizes that the understanding of emptiness must be grounded in establishing the dependent nature of phenomena. Although the wisdom realizing emptiness negates inherent existence, it must be supported by a robust understanding of veiled truth as well as the law of karma and its effect. Robust understanding of veiled truth. Conventional reality is called kunzoba, veiled. Its true mode of being is veiled by the way we look at things and think of things, but eventually we change out of that. We can do this because we have the seed of Buddhahood within us. The more subtle layers of our mind are very, very smart. They're not impeded by afflictions, wrong thinking. We only know the surface mind. A good way of looking at it is look at the ocean. The surface is choppy in this, way down deep. It's very still. Is the water that's choppy different from the water down deep? No. That stillness is there. It's basic nature, but we don't know that. So that's some of the ideas like Dzogchen has. Even when we're going crazy and everything, underneath, what they call pure awareness is there. We're just covering it. Oh, anyway, that's that. So now, refreshments are served. No, they're not. What time is it? So we'll go to the LAM rim, as we're supposed to. We ended last week at Geshe Sopa's house, so we'll continue with him. This is volume 5 of his LAM rim. Is he here? Oh, good. How is it coming out? We never know with this thing because, something. Yeah, my screen goes blank. All right, good. Yeah, people are alive. All right, good. The same topic we're talking about here, so I hope you can get some grasp. They say in Buddhism, just to hear this, the subtler levels of our mind are picking it up. And all beings, when they're exposed to something Buddhist or something holy or whatever, something positive, are affected. So it's very good if you have animals to bring them to a Tibet and let them see things or recite prayers. Their consciousness at the base level is the same as ours. The form they're in now, when they die, is gone, and they can evolve to human next birth. We can go down to the animal world. So you have to understand that. So it's very important too, if you have an animal or something. What do? You play recordings of the Dalai Lama.
In Tibetan.
In
All day
Tibetan.
long.
These kids they're going to speak Sanskrit. Why are you fooling around Tibetan? That barbaric language. Sanskrit. Narendra Modi would be proud of you. Oh boy. Yes. What's wrong with Italian?
Yay.
Chandrakirti negates inherent existent valid knowledge and inherent existent objects that are known, but he does not negate dependently established valid knowledge and dependently established objects that are known. In other words, he's not saying that what you see in the world is a lot of crap. We say that because what you see is a false appearance, but it's still valid for everyday life. What does His Holiness say simply? If you don't analyze things, everything is fine. You want that book? Here it is. You want to go here or there? Fine. But if you want to know the underlying reality, then you have to use the special insight meditations that are looking for its real mode of being. Why do we have to know that? Can we just go? Because that underlying reality, its realization, will free us from all afflictions, from everything. It will give us permanent bliss. Then we can attain the state of Buddha, which is omniscient. We can emanate forms that help others. So if you have the wish to help others, this is it. Now, the fast ways of doing it, I don't know. All kinds of advertisements appear in these magazines that, Enlightenment in 1 hour or something. I don't know. Anyway, so valid knowledge depends on the object known, and the object known depends on valid knowledge. It's very simple. They're established dependently on each other, just as Eastern Mountain and Western Mountain are established dependently on each other. Their designation. This is Eastern because that's Western, that's all. This is short because that's long. There's dependency right there. Play with these ideas, while you're walking around. It's very simple. There cannot be valid knowledge that exists independently of anything else. It's always in relation. Male, female. They're all designations. But designations entails a comparison, long and short, we can go on. Depends on hot sauce or regular. Kendrick Curdy accepts worldly knowledge. He said, moreover, here's his words, moreover, those are mutually dependent. If there is valid knowledge, then there are things known. If there are things known, then there is valid knowledge. Therefore, valid knowledge and the object known are not established by their own nature. They're also established by someone knowing them. So this is some temporary causes of error and deep causes of error. In general, a sense conscious. I'm working from page 163 of Geshe Sopa's volume 5. I think, Carol, you have the book. So a few of you have the book. So here it is, this heavy book. In general, a sense consciousness is valid if no external temporary causes of error impedes it. Yes, you don't have jaundice, so you don't see everything is yellow. You have clear vision, so you don't see blurry things. That's a surface valid, not valid designation. No. What this consciousness establishes, correct, yes. It is valid even though, owing to the power of ignorance, it is affected by a deep cause of error, the imprints of ignorance, yes. Imprints of ignorance in our mind, we think things are inherently existent, maybe not on the surface, but they're there. Ignorance here refers to the innate mind holding things to be inherently existent. It is the innate self-grasping mind, giving too much power to me, the egotistic I. That doesn't exist if you... Because it thinks that it can do anything by itself, and it's very forgetful about how things really happen. And boy, does it cause trouble. You cross it, it goes crazy. It'll do anything. That kind of ignorance leaves deep imprints on the mental continuum, and these affect all unenlightened conventional consciousnesses, yes. These imprints cause the objects of sense consciousness and so on to appear inherently existent. However, this mistaken appearance of inherent existence does not invalidate a sense consciousness that is undistorted by any temporary cause of error. A simple designation is fine. The underlying weight you put on it is wrong. Okay, that's the simple way of thinking. Here we must make a distinction between a distorted consciousness and a mistaken consciousness. A distorted sense consciousness grasps its primary object incorrectly because it's affected by a temporary cause of error. For example, eye disease or something. That's common in the world. No, he doesn't see well. He can't read this. Undistorted sense consciousness is mistaken in a more subtle way. And this we all have. It is mistaken with regard to the appearance of its object as inherently existent. Whereas in reality, it is empty of inherent existence. It is in flow. It is probably, that's all. However, from a conventional perspective, there's nothing wrong with that. A mistaken sense consciousness is incorrect because it's affected by the imprints of ignorance, but it need not be distorted. Imprint, by the way, is the same thing. You whatever you do puts an imprint like a sound on a tape, and it goes on for billions of years, and when it meets a certain condition, it'll come up. When the sound on the tape meets the right digital thing, it makes a noise, something like that. I don't know. But be careful how you think. Even your thoughts affect things. As we said last class, someone asked the Lama, if I pray for someone, does it work? Yes. especially if you ask a power like the Buddha, medicine Buddha, heals someone. Those are realized beings. Those are omniscient beings. They know what you're thinking, and they have the ability to make these things happen. Then it also depends on the person you're praying for if they're receptive or not. They have receptive karma. That's it. In the meantime, just praying for them, you create for future lives a connection with them. And you're also improving your mind if you're wishing to remove their suffering. I hope they don't be sick. That's a big thing. So it is valid if it knows its main objects. In other words, it knows this is a book and not a horse. That's in terms of being the object of that conventional valid knowledge. That object exists as it is known in the world. The world is fine. Don't go crazy. According to Prasangika Madhyamaka system, any unenlightened being's ordinary consciousness, including sensory direct perception, is always mistaken. This I talk about all the time because the book talks about it. There's a school of Buddhism that says, everything the eye picks up is right as it sees it, exactly as it is, but then in the split second, the mind takes over, identifies it, categorizes it, and that ruins it. And this school is saying, no, the sense consciousness themselves are affected deeply by your innate ignorance. It affects all forms of your consciousness, the thinking mind, the visual, the auditory, etc. There's a subtle grasp of inherent existence inherent in just the act of seeing, they say. That's hard to think of, I know. But that's a big difference between the highest schools and the lower schools. Lower schools are fine because talking to people like that, yeah, you see it directly, but then have you noticed that the mind starts saying, this guy's no good, that guy's great. So it looks like the sensory consciousness are very pure. They don't get involved. Not so according to this school. They don't get involved in conceptual workings, but they're carrying with them something that's ignorant, that we can purge. Since everything is empty, we don't have to be the way we are. Oh, that's good news too. Where do I sign? Nowhere. Apart from a Buddha's awareness, only the meditative equipoise of an Arya being directly perceiving shunyata is not mistaken. When an Arya being is a noble who sees emptiness directly, not through a concept, but directly, at that point, their consciousnesses are pure, no problem. When they come out of it, they're still not full Buddhas. They still have elements of error in the way they see things, hear things, taste things, etc. Oh, I see. Now he made a friend, unfortunately. You're going to have cat hair on you. I hope you're not going out tonight. Our cat's being a brat as usual. He's the big star of this show. At the time, nothing but emptiness appears when these people go. And that's fine. They're clean. However, as soon as the Arya being arises from his or her meditation, mistaken consciousnesses occur again. Until reaching Buddhahood, all living beings have the imprints of ignorance within their mind streams, which give rise to the appearance of inherent existence. Except those people say, oh, I see these things in there, but they're not fooling me. Don't tell me. Like the guy who knows that a magician is creating a false appearance or a hologram. That's not the real person. That's a hologram, I know. But another person is, ooh, there he is. That's all. So these people coming out of their equipoise say, yes, I know fully things do not inherently exist. Boy, they sure look like it, but there's less and less of that as you go up the rungs of the ladder. Your closeness to Buddhahood happens more and more close. And you change quite a bit. There's 10 steps, but we won't go into that now. Even 10th level bodhisattvas, the ones who are on the cusp of Buddhahood, have these imprints, which are obstructions to omniscience. Yes, that's what prevents you. These appearances is blocking you from being omniscient. Simultaneous and direct knowledge of all beings, all phenomena, and their mode of being. Simultaneous and direct. Omniscience is things hard to get our heads around, but we would like to have it though, and we want it. We all want it, right? We usually think in terms of lotto tickets. Yes, if I was omniscient, I could buy a lotto ticket, and then I would know that this is. But on my level, that's great. It motivates me. I don't know about you. But until then, I'm not buying. Nevertheless, conventional knowledge is valid with respect to its main object. Are you getting tired of the same point being that they have to drive it in because we trip up? So, a visual consciousness seeing blue is valid. Yeah, that's blue. right? Respect to its main object. A visual consciousness seeing blue, but it is mistaken in that its object, blue, appears to exist from its own side, not realizing that blue is a combination of this or that. It's refracted light, if you want to get scientifically about it. So, but in the meantime, hand me the blue paint, will you please? Yeah. But it is mistaken. It's so. Here we need to distinguish between the held object and the appearing objects of a sense consciousness. This is sticky, and this is part of Buddhist, where they map a reality. What the appearing object of a sense, even though a valid sense consciousness is the main object, the held object is correct. It appears incorrectly. Yes, that is a book, but it appears as an inherent existent book. But it's a book, and nobody cares if it's inherent existent or not. That's all. So that's a big thing. When they talk about, if you read some of their texts, they'll talk about appearance, referent object, held object, appearance object. It's exhaustive. I find it. Maybe because I'm old, but the easy way to do this is watch lectures on YouTube and stuff, and has different lecturers explain these things because they're all working the same texts. Then you get an idea of it. Very helpful, especially the new modern nuns and monks, especially the Western ones, Geshe Namdak and some of the others. They sort of know how we think a little more instinctively than the old school lamas, and they use different words, and it seems to be more palatable to us. A great, great yogi, however, is doing a lot of things you don't even know is happening to you. And then later on, many lives, things spring up. They carry blessings. I mean, if they're full Buddhas acting as normal people, we're very lucky to meet them. More, come over. This mistaken appearance does not harm the validity of the blah, blah, blah. The appearance alone does not negate the conventional reality of that consciousness, right? So its inherent existence doesn't negate the conventional. Let's leave it at that before we get too tied up. There are two types of mistaken seeing. I'm on page 165 of Geshe Sopa's. Subtle and gross. There's always subtle and gross. According to the Madhyamaka, Prasangika Madhyamaka system, the consequentialist school is in English, they call that. Because when they prove their point, they just use reductio ad absurdum arguments. You said this, but that follows that this occurs then. You realize that? You use the person's own words back at them. You fling consequences. As a result of what you said, this is the consequence. Oh, I didn't realize that. The other schools use syllogisms, which assumes that everybody's on the same page with the way they look at reality, and that's not the case. So the higher schools don't go in for that. No, we use them when we need it, but the best argument is this, and the best argument to change someone's mind is in their own words, show them where their words are leading, and this is the result. They call that in Western logic reduction to absurdity. And so that's all. Our subtle sense objects, the five physical sense powers, the mental sense power, may be either clear or faulty. The mind is full. Some monastic textbooks interpret the clear sense organs. We don't go this. We don't want to go the temporary causes of honor. We don't of error, rather, no. So we'll go there because this is over. Page 168. The appearance of inherent existence doesn't exist inherently. The object does, but not its appearance of inherent existence. Think that way too. No form, no this, no that, no that. No inherent form. No inherent feelings. I have feelings. Don't tell me I don't have any. The no in the Heart Sutra is a qualified no. It's not a total negation. No inherent form. Because form is arisen dependently, so it can't be inherent. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? Whenever we ordinary beings see something, it always appears to be inherently existent. That appearance does not damage conventional validity, okay? We're still on the same tear here. Then as soon as we see it, we may immediately hold it this way. This way of holding an object is known as grasping at a self. When they say grasping, that's it. Grasping, when you use the word grasping, you think grasping at inherent existence. You're suspending what's going on in reality and saying, ha, I stopped the flow of reality. This is it. And that's this. And this is that. How can they work together if they're all like that? The reality itself is telling us that things aren't that way. But I don't know. What do they call that? Testadora in Italian?
Testone.
It's not like,
Testa dura.
yeah, hard-headed.
Testone.
Yeah. So you got to meet a Buddha who wakes you up. Buddha means awaken. And we can all be Buddhas because we have to wake to who we are. I'd rather sleep for a while, though. Anyway, the object grasped by ignorance is inherent existence, mingled with the basis of the attributes. So as we said before, we see things and we say, well, this is conventional reality. And we see inherent existence mixed with agreed upon conventional reality. We agree to call this and that. And everybody's functioning the same way in this realm. We see things that way. So it's very necessary because what did Nagarjuna say? We can't show you the ultimate without using the conventional. So through the conventional, the ultimate is shown. Through the ultimate, suffering is banished. And omniscience is acquired. So that's it. It's one of his more famous verses that you can carry around in your wallet. Or your phone, even better. The new wallet. So whether or not these sensory concepts are affected by temporary causes of error, the six primary consciousnesses of all sentient beings are influenced by the imprints deposited in the mind stream by the arising of innate ignorance that holds things to be inherently existent. Like we said before, things are in our mind stream, and all along with filing things as if they were all inherently existent. That is actually affecting our physical functioning, the sense consciousnesses. It's interpreted through that understanding deep in our minds. So you see how we're all connected. Within our body, everything is connected with our seeing power, etc. So when you change the mind, eventually you're going to change the way you see, hear, and think, of course. The mind is one of the mental consciousness affected. So that's the way, to really change. So this idea of holding things, grasping, is not temporary. It's a deep cause of error that remains until enlightenment. So we're not going to get out of there until enlightenment. Okay, we'll have a little bit to go back to the Lamrim, the Chittamatra and Svadhantrika Madhyamika interpretations. We'll have to use that next week, because this week he's going to present it in the Lamrim briefly because we don't have much time. You getting this? You getting it? You getting it? No?
I think so.
If you have a question, you could ask. I'll just repeat it. So, it's very thick. This is the hardest part of Buddhism. It's more difficult some of the Tantra presentations, because those are already up at a certain level and the Lama's guiding you. But this is hard. And it's hard for us Westerners because we don't use the words they use, the way they use them. These are restricted technical terms. Bad tenets and false reasoning are conditions that degrade the mental consciousness. Chandrakirti is saying, he says that conditions such as sleep also degrade the mental consciousness associated with dreams and so forth. Yeah, because we start interpreting. Therefore, you should not consider the impairment of being affected by ignorance as a cause of impairment in this context, even though the object apprehended by ignorance does not exist conventionally. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, here comes an argument. Are you ready? Question. If the five sensory consciousnesses that are unimpaired by causes of error, we got good hearing, seeing, etc., other than ignorance, are non-mistaken conventionally, then the intrinsic character that appears to them must exist conventionally, because we see intrinsic nature or inherent nature. So that must be valid to exist, at least on a conventional level. A lot of schools think that's true. This school does not. However, the Master Chandrakirti does not assert such. Therefore, we must assert that the sensory consciousnesses are mistaken. In that case, it is not feasible for these consciousnesses to be valid. They can't be valid. So that's it. They're trying to prove that when you use the word valid, you can't use that word. He's going to come back with what? Now, when we say valid, we mean two things. So, why? In conventional terms, they are mistaken with regard to forms. On this point, Tsong-kha-pa answers, the Master Bhava Viveka asserts, and it's getting very technical now, he's a Svatantrika, the school below this one, that the nature of forms and such exist conventionally by way of their intrinsic character. They think that there is inherent existence, but just on a conventional level. When you go to the ultimate level, they're not there. It's not there. Can't be. It's either there or not there. All out. So that's the difference. The Svatantrika is called autonomous school because they call autonomous syllogisms. We don't have to know that. But in case somebody questions you for $500, you could say, you never know. Maybe it's 1,000 now. There's been an inflation. So the Chittamatrans argue that imaginary constructs lack a characteristic nature. We're getting into the mind-only school. There's a school that says, and this is a brief skinny on it, I mean, it's not the technical one, that everything we see is just a projection of the mind. There's nothing physical out there. That school is very good as a teaching tool because it takes the pull of the hatred and attraction away from you. It's only the mind imagining things. These things are really not there. There are seeds of karma that erupt nanosecond by nanosecond, producing these appearances in the mind that sees them and acts on them. That's the mind-only school. So then the next school up says, stop it. Because that school thinks that these things we see in the world are not inherently existent and that we know they're just projections. But the mind is. It's a very good technique and even a good meditation technique. Nikki's famous for saying that the mind-only school is very helpful to start thinking that everything we see is not as solid as it is. You're sort of rehearsing, something like that, It does take the pull away from things. No, this person isn't that great. I shouldn't go after them because it's only projection of my mind. My mind wants something, and he created this. I'm not going to be fooled. Yeah, to a point. So he's going to talk about that. It's going through the three natures, what's dependent, what's inherent. We're not going to go there because that needs a whole section on its own. We had, I think, were you around when Gareth gave the mind-only school presentation years ago? It was on 31st Street. You're probably there. It was really tedious. I mean, really bad. And then Nikki's teacher, Yeshe Lunda gave a teaching on this school, and that was easily over our head. So, but the ones that's the modern ones, even Nikki, he digested that, and he comes out in vernacular way of speaking, and it's more understandable. So these the children, that the great one, Kathleen, those nuns, they're very good. They study with the best, and they put it in our language. So I recommend that. They're all over the YouTube. That's your best thing. They're always with you. There's a Bodhisattva breakfast corner that's on every morning for 15 minutes. It's the nuns at Spasti Abbey in Spokane, yeah, up in the hills there, doing nothing but benefiting us. Bless their hearts. Send them some organic food. So let's see, what's late, so we can't go into any big topic. Oh, we're almost done. We have to stop here. I mistook the time. So I'm going to go over by 5 minutes. I hope you don't mind. Next week it won't be as thick, I promise. So for whom will we pray? If I don't see everyone's name there, we still pray for them. All those cool cats. Who's cool cats? Oh God, it's getting worse. They're back in the 50s with cool cats. I prostrate to the omniscient one. That's the Buddha, Bhagavad, Tathagata, Arahat, especially Mr. Laj, Mario Laj, your brother. Tathagata, Arahat, Samyak, Sang Buddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha, Bhagavat. Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strengths cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He's not stained by the realm of desire. He's not stained by the realm of form. He's not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with datsus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He's completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He has perfected all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats, who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi, where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The Holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure, completely purifies. The Bhagavad teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavad, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha, the great Yana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. We'll run through the prayer for flourishing Tsong-kha-pa's teachings. Though he's the father, producer of all conquerors, as the conqueror's son, he produced the thought of upholding the conqueror's Dharma in infinite worlds. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. No, this is not an auction. I'm just reading fast. When of yore in the presence of the Buddha Indraketu, he made his vow, the conqueror and his offspring praised his powerful courage. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish, that the lineage of pure view and conduct might spread. He offered a white crystal rosary to the sage who gave him a conch and prophesied. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. His pure view, free of eternity or destruction, his pure meditation, cleansed of dark fading and fog, his pure conduct practice according to the conqueror's orders. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. I don't think you have. No. Learned since he extensively sought out learning, reverend, rightly applying it to himself, good, dedicating all for beings in the doctrine. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Through being sure that all scripture is definitive and interpretive without contradiction, advice for one person's practice, he stopped all misconduct. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Listening to explanations of the three Pitakas, realized teachings, practice of the three trainings, his skilled and accomplished life story is amazing. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Outwardly calmed and subdued by the hearer's conduct, inwardly trusting in the two stages practice, he allied without clash the good paths of Sutra and Tantra. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Combining voidness explained as the causal vehicle with great bliss achieved by metta, the effect vehicle, heart essence of 80,000 Dharma bundles. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. By the power of the ocean of oath-bound doctrine protectors like the main guardians of the three beings' paths, the quick-acting Lord, Vaishravana, Karmayama, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. In short, by the lasting of glorious gurus, lives by the earth being full of good, learned, reverend holders of the teaching, and by the increase of power of its patrons, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. 8 verses on training the mind, with the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings who surpass even a wish for granting jewel. I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions, I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When the one whom I benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone, without exception, all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. Sorry, this is very thick. This one's probably the thickest we'll ever do. Next week, I assure you, be more fluid and open. Anyway, Jackie is training in India. She will be here July 15th, our new old friend who became a nun and will be teaching here. She's very, very good and very, very smart. really staggeringly bright. And she's a warm-hearted, good person. So that we can look forward to that. She'll probably teach Wheel of Sharp Weapons, among other things. Saturday, we have White Tara. Everyone is welcome here at the parsonage in South Orange. Go to the website, get the instructions. It starts at 1, it ends 1:45 or so. Refreshments, and then a half hour of silence, 3 to 3:30. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Big love to all of you. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Thank Chong. Nobody does anything on their own. I'm not in